And good evening, everybody, and welcome. This is our huge New Year's Eve special if you're watching us during the live stream. If you're watching this beforehand, welcome to College Football Wraparound, everybody. It is quarterfinal edition of the playoff, and we got to preview these four games here today. Also, as you can see up at the top, it says don't forget to like and subscribe. We are so close to 100 subscribers, so please, if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button, like the video, because we need all the help we can get. And plus, if you hit the like button, it has a better possibility of getting pushed out to more people. So, if you haven't already, please hit the like and subscribe buttons. It will greatly help us here as we try to give you the best possible content and best analysis of college football as we can give you. So, without a doubt, let's go ahead and get started with today's topics. We'll start out with talking about the game that you're fixing to see here in just a little bit. Boise State, Penn State in the Verbo Fiesta Bowl. First off, we did Penn State here on the channel a week and a half ago for the first round of the playoff. Penn State dominated SMU. Now, granted, I do believe Boise State's a better football team than SMU. But again, this is a game that's going to be very interesting just for the likes of Penn State should have an advantage in this game. Now, why do I say that? Defensive wise, I think Penn State is a much better team. You go through the stats here, and as I get the defensive stats, Reed, their safety, he's got 43 solo tackles this season. He's got 1.5 sacks. He's got 3 interceptions himself, and to have 3 interceptions is pretty impressive here. Abdul Carter, he is a nightmare for any team. This defense, I believe, does a great job when it comes to going up against a run-heavy team like Boise State. At the same time, they made life very hard for a guy like Kevin Jennings in that first round matchup. So Penn State's defense is going to show up in this game. Another something else to keep in mind, Drew Aller, he played, I'd say, a decent game in the first round against SMU. I would say that his decision making, maybe like when he's in the pocket, needs to be a little bit better than what it was. But I do think that Aller does a great job when he gets out of the pocket and he's on the move. He does a great job of getting rid of the football. It's a lot like, and I mean, I think that Cam Ward and Drew Aller are they're similar skill sets because I feel like they try to emulate Patrick Mahomes a lot. But of course, Cam Ward is a much better quarterback than Drew Aller. But Drew Aller, I think, like I said before, he is very heavy on trying to emulate Patrick Mahomes with the way that he gets out of the pocket, with the sidearm angles and that kind of thing. And it's really like a baseball centric um passing form, if you want to say that. And then you want to look at, you got tight end Tyler Warren. He is incredible. They've also used him, and I mean, I wouldn't be shocked to see this tonight. Is that they've used him in like special plays where he will come in and throw the football. So keep an eye out for that. That should be very interesting to see how that is tonight. Tyler Warren himself, he's got just about 1,100 yards. He needs 5 yards tonight to get to 1,100 on the season. So that'll be something. And then you got the 2-man game, like a start. You got the 2 men in the backfield. You got Nick Singleton and you got Katron Allen. Nick Singleton can go, if he has a great game tonight, he can get to 1,000 yards rushing on the season. Katron Allen, he's got 892, so he can get to 900 tonight. So very interesting. We'll see what they do. But the run game is definitely they got a really good run game if you're looking at Penn State. Something to keep an eye on if you are Boise State. Now, turning our attention to Boise State. You have probably the guy that should have been the Heisman that got robbed, Ashton Genty, the running back. He is 3 yards away from 2,500 yards. I don't care where you play. When you have nearly 2,500 yards rushing in a season, that's impressive. That is impressive. So, and to put this in context, Nick Singleton and Katron Allen for Penn State, they're good running backs, but them two combined as far as their yards is nowhere close to Ashton Genty himself. Now you can say, oh, look who they play. They don't play anybody. I mean, come on. They also, keep in mind, they played against Oregon early in the season, and they gave Oregon a game. That was not a easy game if you're Boise State or if you're Oregon. That was two really good teams competitively going at it. So Boise State, I think, has proven in the past they can play with the big boys. This is going to be an interesting game, though. Of course, as you know, Boise State, as you can see on the screen, 3 seed. Why do they get the 3 seed? Well, it's because of the way they formatted this 12-team playoff, which is they gave conference champions a automatic bye other than Clemson because it's top 5, and Clemson got the 12 seed because they were the 5th highest ranked conference champion. So, but getting back to this game, Ashton Genty, 2,500 yards on the season is, it's inevitable. He'll get it probably on this first carry of the game. And then Maddox Madsen, the quarterback, he's had a great season. He's got a 62% completion percentage, but he hasn't had to throw the ball all that much. Really, if you look at Boise State, we're going to ground and pound you most of the game, and then when it comes time that we need to throw the ball, we've got a guy in Maddox Madsen who can make a play when it's needed. So, quite frankly, this Boise State team tonight is going to be incredible. You're not going I think this is going to be a close game. And I'm excited to do it here on the channel for you. So, I'm not going to give a pick on this game because I'm going to be broadcasting this for you, but this is definitely one of those that is going to be very close. So, with that all being said, be ready for a good football game. Let's turn our attention now to the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl between Arizona State and Texas. Now, you want to talk about a game that should be really fun to watch today or tomorrow because, this game will be Arizona State and Texas be playing on New Year's Day, be 12 o'clock local time here in Alabama. So you got a really interesting ball game. Where do I start? Let's start out with and what we're gonna do is we're gonna start out by talking about the teams that won in the first round and then make our way to the teams that got the bye. So, let's talk about Texas. Texas, first off, they just came off of let me say this. All 4 of the games in the first round were not competitive at all. Like, they weren't competitive. If you truly watch these games, they were not competitive. Clemson maybe had the most competitive game, but it wasn't competitive in the fact that it was over at halftime. All of them were over at halftime. So, what do I think Texas needs to do? First off, in this game, I feel like their defense, I think they did good enough to beat Clemson. But I do think that Arizona State gives a challenge that I think the defense of Texas is their defensive line is definitely going to have to show up, especially because you got Cam Scatterbo, the running back for Arizona State. He can really light you up if you are not having your best day defensively. So, Texas, defensive-wise, I think they're good enough. They can get the win, but they've got to definitely play a little bit better than what they did against Clemson. Now, of course, some names to remember for tomorrow's game. Of course, Quinn Ewers definitely is a guy that everybody knows who Quinn Ewers is if you watch college football. This season he's 250 of 376, 2,867 yards. He's got a 66.5 completion percentage. He's got 26 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. Now keep in mind that he if I believe correctly, he did miss a couple games throughout the regular season with I think it was a leg injury he had. So yeah, he missed a little bit of time. He always does anyway, because I mean he's not he has a hard time staying healthy. But that's besides the fact. But Quinn Ewers is definitely that guy that I think he's a pocket passer. He can sit back, he can make plays, and it's not just like, and I mean, when you talk about the passing game, I don't think there's really a guy per se that's his top guy. I mean, he's got Golden, his receiver. He's got Helm, Isaiah Bond. You got Wingo, you got Moore. So I mean, you got Blue, Bolden. You got a bunch of guys here that, I mean, Wisner as well. So I mean, you've got a catalyst of guys that could really help Quinn Ewers in this game. And I think that's big when you really look at the fact that you got a bunch of guys that can go out there and really help your quarterback. And of course, Wisner and Blue and Gibson on the ground have been big. Also, another thing to watch out for, Arch Manning, when he comes in the game, what does he do as far as him with the design plays running the football? That's going to be interesting here tonight or tomorrow afternoon. Sorry. So definitely interesting. This Texas team is good. And so we'll see how they do against Arizona State. Now, moving on with Arizona State, like I said, you got Cam Scatabo as your lead back, but you got to also keep in mind you got Sam Levitt. He's 192 at 304 on the season, 2,663 yards, 24 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. This is a young guy. This is a young quarterback who has done a great job all season. And it's very similar, I think, to Boise State in the fact that they're going to lean on Cam Scatabo to run the football. And then when in time comes, you got Sam Levitt who can sit back and get the ball to the guys that need to get the ball. It's a great combination. And so when you look at, Cam Scatabo, 263 carries, 1,568 yards, 19 touchdowns. I mean, incredible season for him. Also, keep in mind, Sam Levitt, he's very mobile as well. He's got 97 carries over the season, 383 yards, 5 touchdowns himself. So, very mobile quarterback. And then, of course, your top receiver is Tyson, 75 receptions, 1,101 yards, 10 touchdowns. So, you look at Arizona State, you don't have a lot of receivers that can get the ball, but as far as where Levitt's gone with the ball, but it's very heavy on we're going to run the football. We got Cam Scatabo who can make enough plays to win the ball game. The question becomes, have they played anybody good enough, as good as Texas, to really challenge them? I would say I don't think they have. This is where they're going to get shocked in this game. And for that reason, I got to pick Texas because I don't think Arizona State, and I mean for that matter, I don't think Texas doesn't have a win against a good football team, but they've actually played good football teams where they played Georgia twice. So Arizona State, to me, I don't know if they've really played a team that is going to really challenge them yet. And so with all that being said, Texas, to me, is going to win this football game because I just don't know if Arizona State has enough. I think this should be an interesting ball game for the first half, But personally speaking, I think Texas pulls away and makes this a blowout at the end of the day. So, yeah, I mean, we'll see how this game goes, but that's my preview of the Peach Bowl. All right, moving on to Oregon and Ohio State. Now, this game, we plan to give you some coverage of this game um on tomorrow afternoon. So we are looking right now at Ohio State, Oregon, Rose Bowl. I mean, and of course, like I just said, since we're going to be covering it, I'm not going to give you a winner of this game. But man, this is going to be the best game right here. This is the best game of the quarterfinal round. Why do I say that? And I mean, you're like, oh, it's the 1-8 matchup. This is the one that should be the worst. No. Look, and here's the reason why I say I need you to sit here and let me explain. First off, you look at Ohio State. What did they not do right against Tennessee? Their defense showed up. Will Howard played a incredible game. Jeremiah Smith played an incredible game. I mean, the run game was going for you. There was nothing wrong with Ohio State against Tennessee. It was a complete 180 from how they played against Michigan. And if you remember that Michigan game, their offense played it so conservative where they didn't put up enough points to beat Michigan. You missed a couple field goals in that game. Against Tennessee, though, they showed up against Tennessee. Look, I do feel like Ryan Day felt a lot of pressure going into this game. I mean, how could you not when fans, and you just made the college football playoff and your fans are yelling, we need to fire you after losing to Michigan. Now, I get it. I get it wholeheartedly. This is a rivalry game. It's unacceptable to lose 4 years in a row. But come on. I mean, they just beat the rails out of Tennessee. And quite frankly, and here's why I say this is probably the biggest win Ryan Day has had since the COVID shortened 2020 year. The reason why this is the biggest win is because this was a playoff game and they got a win in the playoffs. That's big. Another reason is because of this. Yes, they've played Penn State. They played Michigan. But they've beat Penn State, but they've beat Penn State every year since since 2017. They've won every single time against Penn State. That's not a big game to me just because it's one-sided. Ohio State's won every matchup for a long time. Saquon Barkley was at Penn State the last time Penn State actually beat Ohio State. So Ohio State coming to this game, I got to admit, they're the most talented football team in the country, and there's a reason why they're in the quarterfinal round. It's because they are good enough to be here. They showed that against Tennessee. Now, Oregon, and I got to say this. Okay, Dylan Gabriel had a great season, 297, 406, 3,558 yards, 73.2 completion percentage, 28 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. Most years, that wins you the Heisman. Most years, not this year, though, because, you had Ashton Jeanty, who was a better player than you, and you have Travis Hunter, who's a better player than you. So, incredible stuff to see. Dylan Gabriel, he had a great season, though. Oregon, and I feel really bad for them because you're going to sit here and tell me that they're the number one team and what's their reward? Oh, you got Ohio State. Are you kidding me? They got Ohio State? What are we doing? What are we doing right now? So we're going to sit here. It's not fair. It's really not fair. And Oregon, I think, and their running back, James, he's incredible this season. But you're running into an Ohio State team. You beat them once, but can you beat them again? Well, I can't give you a pick, but it's going to be close. Now, James, like I was saying, he's got 226 carries, 1,253 yards, 15 touchdowns himself. Um, so yeah, I mean, the 1-2 combo. I mean, you got Dylan Gabriel who can really get the football out of his hands as soon as you need it. Johnson's their leading receiver with 866 yards. So Oregon's going to be an interesting football team in this playoff. I mean, they're the best team in the country right now. It's just not fair that they are having. I mean, you get a bye, but yet your reward is Ohio State. It's not. This format has got to change. I mean, I just got to be honest. They've got to change this format. If you're going to do like a bid where you say, okay, conference champions go to the playoff, well, in that case, put them where they're ranked. Okay? Clemson was 12. You had to do that because you can't have five buys in a 12-team playoff. You can't do it. So, what do you do instead? Well, you got to have them place where they rank. So, either way, definitely interesting. We'll there's more in the offseason we can talk about the format. But Oregon Ohio State definitely going to be the closest game of this quarterfinal round. All right. So, final matchup to preview, Georgia and Notre Dame. Now, you want to talk about interesting football. This is it. Now, Notre Dame comes off of a matchup where they beat the rails off of Indiana. Score may not say that, but they beat the rails off of Indiana. It was 27-17. Indiana scored 2 touchdowns in the last 4 minutes of the ball game. That, I mean, score doesn't indicate how bad this game was between Notre Dame and Indiana. Now, Riley Leonard has done a great job all season long. He, and I mean, 217 at 325, 2,293 yards, 66.8 completion percentage, 17 touchdowns, 6 interceptions for him. Really, it's the run game, though, that's going to be big. You got Jeremiah Love, 142 carries, 1,057 yards, 16 touchdowns for Jeremiah Love. Definitely big, but also keep in mind, you got Riley Leonard. He's ran the ball 135 times himself for 751 yards and 15 touchdowns. So Leonard is very mobile himself. Now, receiving wise, it's a litany of guys. I mean, you got Bo Collins, Jaden Greathouse, you got Evans, his tight end, you got Faison, and then Jeremiah Love's got some receptions this season. So I mean, if you look at Notre Dame, this team I think is run first and then look to pass. That's really what I'm looking at from Notre Dame. Their defense, I think, played good enough against Indiana. I would like to see some more composure in the last few minutes of the ball game to really give me confidence that they can beat Georgia. So it's gonna be a close game. I think this should be a close game. If it's not, then I'm gonna be shocked. But I do think this Notre Dame, I think, should keep it close. Yeah, I think they should keep it close. It's going to be one of those ball games where a guy like Kaiser on their defense or Watts definitely got to make some plays because Georgia, and I mean, this is going to be interesting. So, Carson Beck, as we reported a couple of days ago on our latest video, Carson Beck is out. he actually, and this is something that was reported after the fact, after I got done doing my video. Carson Beck, he has declared for the draft. So even if he didn't have that surgery, he's gone. He ain't playing, so he's gone. What do I think about this? Well, you got a guy in Gunnar Stockton who he's a mobile quarterback. That's something I think Georgia, when they won their back-to-back championships with Stetson Bennett as their quarterback, that's something that Gunnar Stockton brings. He can actually move around and make some plays. So that's going to be big for a guy like Gunnar Stockton because he can actually be mobile, make some plays with his legs, and open it up a little bit. It can actually open up the run game a little bit because and I mean, I think that's where, if you're Georgia, that's where it's kind of lacked a little bit. Frazier is their leading back with 129 carries, 634 yards, 8 touchdowns. And you got ETN, 111 carries, 571 yards, and 9 touchdowns. So yeah, I mean, if you're Georgia, I do think that you've got to try to run the ball a little bit better. And I think Gunnar Stockton can actually help that a lot because with him having the ability to run, and if he can make plays through the air, I think it will open up it'll open it up a little bit where you can actually get the ball to your running backs. So, um, so Stockton on the season, I mean, he's been incredible. 25 of 32, 206, 78.1% completion percentage. He hasn't thrown a touchdown. He's got 1 interception. Now, most of this is coming in the second half against Texas in the SEC championship game. And I mean, the big thing is he did have he got hit in the head. I don't know if they ever said he had a concussion or not. And so the status of Stockton was in the air, but they've said he's going to start. So Georgia should be fine. Big thing is, as far as receiving wise, I want to see the receivers truly, I mean, step up and help their quarterback out. I feel like that's hurt Beck throughout the season. His receivers haven't really helped him when it comes to actually catching the football. But then it's also, in my opinion, it's half the receivers and half Carson Beck. I mean, he's a good quarterback, but I don't think he's incredible. I don't think he's the guy that could have won a championship for Georgia. Now, keep in mind, he did take them through most of the regular season, but it's Gunnar Stockton who will be playing in the college football playoffs. So we'll definitely see. And I mean, something that a note that I got from my dad yesterday that really kind of makes you have to think. Since 2020, there's only been 3 teams to beat Georgia. That is Ole Miss, Alabama, Florida. Nobody outside of the SEC has beat Georgia. So we'll have to wait and see what happens for Georgia. But yeah, this is going to be a great game. If I had to give a pick, I know my bracket, I picked Notre Dame, but that was right after the conference championship games, after the bracket was filled out, and we could start making picks. Personally speaking, I got to pick Georgia. I just have a hard time. I mean, if Gunnar Stockton's playing, and like I said, if he's mobile enough where he can make some plays, it's hard to pick against Georgia. Very hard. So, yeah, that's my preview of the college football playoff quarterfinal round. So if you're watching live, it's about time for kickoff of the quarterfinal round between Penn State and Boise State here on our New Year's Eve stream here on Saber Broadcast Network. If you're watching this beforehand, though, got a couple hours until kickoff, but this is definitely going to be interesting. Got some bowl games in meantime, but of course, for me personally, it is hard to get into those bowl games. But also, don't forget, like and subscribe because we're trying to hit 100 subscribers before the end of the year, which is here in a few hours. So, without a doubt, it's time for Penn State, Boise State. After this break, let's go to Cooper Naylor.